Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamun alaikum wa rahmatullah. I pray to Almighty Allah that all of you are fine. So, welcome to our sixth Quranic session with Sayyid Zaidi. So, without wasting any more time, I would like to invite our esteemed scholar, Sayyid Ali Zaidi, for Quranic reflections.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. I hope you're all doing well, and may Allah inshallah accept all your efforts. May He give us all the tawfiq to be able to make this relationship of ours with the Quran stronger and stronger as each day goes by, and inshallah give us the tawfiq to be able to continue this even after the holy month of Ramadan, inshallah. The verse that I would like to share with you today is from Surah Noor, which is Surah number 24, and this is verse number 39. And basically it says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُمْ كَسَرَابٍ بقيعة يحسبه الظمآن ماء حتى إذا جاءه لم يجده شيئا ووجد الله عنده فوفاه حسابه والله سريع الحساب. And essentially what this saying is, it's talking about, so the verses before this are talking about the people who on the right path, who are connected to God, who do the right things, who do the zikr of Allah, and they're basically, they have everything figured out and they're doing the right things, and the sort of the rewards for them and whatnot. So it's talking about that. And then in the verse after that, which is verse number 39, which the one we're talking about over here, so Surah Noor 24, Surah 24, verse 39. Over here, it's talking about وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, as in contrast to, but the people who did kufr, or the people who did not believe, their action, أَعْمَالْهُمْ كَسَرَابٍ بِقِيعَةٍ, their actions are like a mirage, and بِقِيعَةٍ is like in the desert. يَحْسَبُهُ الظَّمْآنُ مَاءً, that a thirsty person feels like they see water. It's water over there. So this is basically an analogy, or an example that the Quran is giving with regards to a reality. حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَهُ لَمْ يَجِدْهُ شَيْئًا, until this thirsty person comes to the mirage, that they were thirsty, they thought this was water, but when they come close to it, they realize that there's nothing over there. لَمْ يَجِدْهُ شَيْئًا وَوَجَدَ اللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ, and he finds Allah over there, and فَوَفَّاهُ حِسَابُهُ وَاللَّهُ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. So it's talking about a reality that our actions, everything we do in this world, has a reality to it. That's what it's trying to tell us. Before we get into that, just the concept of kufr, right? It starts off with وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and those who disbelieved, or those who did kufr. This is something that obviously, just like other notions and other concepts, it's something that's on a spectrum. And I think we've mentioned this several times in our sessions over here as well. It's on a spectrum. What that means is that kufr is not either just black or white, right? It's not like either you're a kafir or you're not a kafir. Yes, in the strict sense of the word, that could be it could be true. But when we talk about kafir, right? When we talk about someone being a kafir, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? It's someone who does not believe in Allah, or who rejects Allah, or doesn't believe in the religion, and so on and so forth. So these are the kafirin, and as the Quran also talks about that, even there's Surah Kafirun, there's an entire surah that's named after them. But other than that, in many different places it talks about it. So if this verse is talking about the people who disbelieve, what can I gain from this verse? Right? What can I can gain from this verse for myself? And the answer is this, what we're talking about, that kufr can be on a spectrum. The most blatant example of qom, or the most blatant instance of qom, of kufr, would be that a person who disbelieves in God, who rejects God, who doesn't do anything for a religion, doesn't follow a religion, and so on and so forth. But what about someone who follows a religion? Can they be on the spectrum of kufr as well? Can they be considered somewhere on the spectrum of kufr, at least in certain contexts? And the way I understand it is that yes, the answer is yes. And the reason is that kufr, if kufr means rejecting God or disbelieving in God or not acknowledging God, then although I, as a Muslim, say that I believe in God, I believe in Allah, I follow His commandments, but sometimes what happens is that negligence takes over, or ghafla takes over, or my desires take over, and the decisions that I'm making get distorted because of that. Or, they're not the best of decisions, I should say. Um, so in that instance, or in that during that period when I'm not doing as well, or that iman or that faith in Allah that I have is not shining through, is not helping me lead the life how I would like to lead it. If that is the case, then during that time, during that period, or during that whatever period of time, I can kind of say that this is the time when I was negligent of Allah, or I was ignoring Allah, or in some ways I was rejecting Allah. Yes, even though I'm not consciously saying that, I reject God, like maybe a kafir would say. So understanding that, perhaps some of the things that are mentioned in the Quran for the people who are the kafirun, or the kuffar, and some of the realities that are mentioned about them can be understood by myself as well on a spectrum. For example, over here, just like how we understand the concept of kufr on a spectrum, what it's saying over here, that the actions of a kafir um, are nowhere to be seen, are nowhere to be found, right? The person thinks that they've done the actions, and this is also perhaps an answer, at least some sort of lead to the question that's sometimes asked is like, this person doesn't believe in God, but they do a lot of good actions. What do what is going to happen to them? They did so many good actions. They were good people. They used to help people. They used to do this. They used to do that. What happens with them? And what this is saying is the people who do kufr, or people who are kafir, or people who don't believe in Allah, their actions are just like a mirage. It looks like there's a reality to it. It looks like they're worth something. It looks like, when that they will be rewarded for it. But when you look at it in reality, it's just fluff. It's just the foam of the ocean. There's nothing really there, because every action, um, the essence of every action, or what gives the action its worth, is that niyyah, or that intention that we've said before as well. And the niyyah comes from the belief, or the ma'rifat, or the understanding. So therefore, a person who's a kafir, can you imagine that? Like, you've spent an entire lifetime of doing things, whether it's volunteering, whether it's helping organizations, whether it's setting up programs, whether it's donating, whether it's this or whether it's that, and your entire life you spent doing this. And now that on the day of judgment, I'm there, and I think, all these actions that I've done, now is the time for me to get rewarded for those. And I go, and there's nothing there. Then none of my actions are there. None of my actions got counted like how I thought they would get counted. Um, that would be a shame, right? That would be a surprise for me, and that is why the Quran keeps telling us, or there's this recommendation of reading the Quran, reading it more often, so I can start understanding these realities of the world. I can start understanding what's going to happen in the future. I can start understanding what's going to happen in the present. I can start understanding how God deals with me and how I need to deal with God, how God looks, how Allah looks down at the world. What is the system that He's created, and so on and so forth. All of these different things, these principles that are mentioned in the Quran. That's why there is so much recommendation to read the Quran and understand the Quran and try to contemplate the Quran. So, anyways, over here it's saying that the reality of the action is not there. And this is something that we need to kind of understand, that when we talk about going to, heaven or going to hell or any of these things, these are not arbitrary in the sense that, there's someone standing there and keeps telling people, okay, you go to the right, you go to the left, you go to the right, you go to the left. Whoever is good goes to the right. Whoever didn't do good goes to the left. So it's not like that. It's more like the reality that of my actions, whether good or bad, the reality of my actions reflects in the reality of my soul, reflects in the reality of my existence. And therefore, every good action takes me closer to God. Not see, there's a difference. I don't know if it's clear. There's a difference between I do a good action and then God picks me up and says, okay, let me move you one spot closer. Or if I do a bad action, God picks me and takes me further and says, okay, let me take you one step away. Um, that's not how it is. Basically, the way the existence works, the way my soul works, the way my this world works is every action I do, my soul, the reality of my soul either gets closer or gets further away. So this heaven that we talk about is a heaven that is a reflection of me being close to God. And this hell that we talk about is this reality of this hell that's a reflection of me being away from God, or me not following the rules of God, and so on and so forth. So, why is this important to me? This is important for me to be able to understand that if I want my actions to count, if I want to be able to see my actions and they don't end up just being fluff, right? Not saying that I don't, right? There's a difference. Not that I don't do actions. No, I have a'mal, I do actions, but they don't count as anything, or they don't have a reality to it, as opposed to saying someone who doesn't have any actions. Over here, they're saying, no, no, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُم, that they have a'mal, they have actions, but their actions they're just like a mirage. They don't have a reality to it. It seemed like there is a reality to it. It seemed like I did them, but they're not really there. So what's the lesson for me over here? The lesson for me is that when I do my actions, when I lead my life, when I make my decisions, when I, whatever the actions might be, whether it's just my namaz, whether it's my rosa, whether it's helping somewhere, whether it's volunteering somewhere, whether it's helping the poor, whether it's social service, whatever it might be, whether it's personal, whether it's a social level, all these actions, what I need to do or try to do is that I do all these actions consciously. Consciously meaning with Allah in mind, with my ultimate goal in mind, with my path, with my journey towards Allah in mind. Because the less my attention is towards these things, the less I consciously think about these things, the less I'm attentive of these things, the more I will be perhaps higher on the level of on the spectrum of kufr. Right? Again, let me clarify. This is not by any means saying that any one of us will become a kafir or will become this. So just to clarify, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the worth of your action. The worth of my action is directly proportional to how attentive I am, how consciously attentive I am, and how focused I am on the ultimate goal, um, how attentive I am towards the reality of God, towards the existence of God, towards me consciously doing this for the purpose that I was created for. So all these factors, which can kind of be summarized in the intention or summarized in the niyyah, all of these things are really important. So practically, what that means is you might see two people doing good things in life, right? They're busy with life. Okay, I have to do this. Okay, I have to do this. I have to do that. But they don't really align their actions with their ultimate purpose. They're doing good things, but that qurbatan ilallah isn't really at the forefront of their mind. It's kind of gone somewhere in the back. Yes, initially when they started doing this, they said they were going to do it for Allah. But then as time went on and things happened, now it's more about getting recognition. It's more about their ego. It's more about position. It's more about money. It's more about and so on and so forth. So just because we start something with attention doesn't mean that it will continue with attention. And at the end of the day, the most important thing, the most successful of people will be the ones who most of their actions, or the more their actions are done consciously, not just consciously as in, okay, I'm doing it for God, I'm doing it for God, I'm doing it for God, but actually understanding um, what doing it for God means, understanding God, understanding what role this thing plays in my journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I can't just make up stuff and say, okay, I'm going to be chopping trees qurbatan ilallah. Wait, there's no connection over there. Allah doesn't want you to chop trees. Unless there's, I live in the northern regions and there's enough trees and I chop trees to help the poor people and provide them with wood for the winter. Qurbatan ilallah. Now this is something different, although it's still chopping trees. Um, and so on and so forth for all our actions. So this is something that I thought, especially the way uh, the verse describes the situation is very very it catches your attention. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُمْ كَسَرَابٍ بِقِيعَةٍ, that the people who disbelieve their actions are like a mirage in the desert. يَحْسَبُهُ الظَّمْآنُ مَاءً, that a thirsty person thinks that it's water. حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَهُ لَمْ يَجِدْهُ شَيْءًا, until he reaches that point and realizes that there's nothing there. I think we still have time, but let me see. It's not a bad idea that we kind of I thought we would take up the entire time. That's why I didn't backtrack a little. But in the same Surah Noor, remember at the start I mentioned that it starts with talking about the people who are doing the right things, and then eventually comes to this. So we can backtrack two verses. So now I'm on Surah Noor, Surah number 24, verse number 37, just to kind of give an idea of what context this conversation is happening in. رجال أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. So it's talking about people, it's talking about men. لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع, that it doesn't matter if they have a business, it doesn't matter if they have trade, it doesn't matter if they have buying or selling, it doesn't matter. We will extend that to it doesn't matter if they have work, it doesn't matter if they have school, it doesn't matter if they have exams, it doesn't matter if, and none of that things matter. These are the people لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله. Nothing takes them away from ذكر الله, right? That the remembrance of Allah is always there. it's on the forefront of their lives. So these are the people that nothing distracts them, nothing takes them away from the remembrance of Allah. See how this, if we read this, we understand that context of what we talked about in verse number 39, that a person who's a kafir is, yes, who rejects God, but we're talking about dhikrullah. We're talking about the remembrance of Allah. The more a person remembers, the higher they are on the spectrum of Iman. The more a person remembers, the less the chance of them entering the spectrum of kufr, and so on and so forth. Because if a person remembers God, then then they would be someone who practices taqwa. Then they would be someone who remembers God, and they would be someone who is less likely to fall off the path. رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله. Nothing takes them away from the zikr of Allah. What else? وإقام الصلاة. And not just remembering Allah in their own minds, or having that perspective or having that worldview that yes, Allah is there, but more than that, even in their actions, it reflects. Salat is something important to them, not just for themselves, but establishing the salat for others is also important for them. Paying their zakat is important for them. And not only that, but they fear the day of judgment. They recognize that there's a day of judgment when they will be judged. So these are the people um, that are on the right path. The rijalun la tulhihim. And what happens to them in the next verse? ليخرجهم sorry, ليجزيهم الله أحسن ما عملوا ويزيدهم من فضله والله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala um, uh, will reward them. So they do all this, and then what's their jaza? That Allah will reward them for what they've done and will increase them in the وَيَزِيدَهُم مِّن فَضْلِهِ, that He will increase them by His grace. وَاللَّهُ يَرْزَقُ مَن يَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have any limitations, that He will give risk to whoever He wants. He will give these bounties and these blessings to whoever He wants without any sort of limitation, without anyone taking account of it. بِغَيْرِ حِسَاب. So this is the context that it's talking about, right? It's talking about people who remember Allah, and it's at the forefront of their mind. Then it says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. And on the other hand, the people who do kufr, who reject Allah. And again, understand this on the Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry about that. I don't know how it happens that exactly like 20 to 25 minutes it just cuts off every day. Anyways, so we're wrapping up anyways. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَعْمَالُهُم. So understanding that there's a reality to my actions, and these actions, the reality of it, the essence of it comes from my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this holy month to give us the tawfiq to be able to perform these pure actions, to be able to see the realities of life, and inshallah act according to them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of this holy month, forgive us our sins, the sins of our parents, the sins of all our marhumin. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to um, increase our attention towards the Quran and our ability to understand the Quran, and inshallah act according to it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our Imam and inshallah include us amongst his sincerest followers. So if there's any
Jazakallah.
questions,
Yeah, so if you have any questions, you can either unmute your mics and ask, or you can also type in.
no, nothing at all. That's fine. If there's no questions, inshallah, we can end over here.
Sheikh, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so we do those tasbih amal of reciting either salawat or astaghfar for 40 days. So a lot of times a person will, just recite it while, for example, walking, while having something else on their mind, or driving, or while they're occupied with something else. So does this still have value, or
It it does have value. It does have value, but it would have more value if it were done with more attention. So it's not the case that it would be, oh, completely useless, might as well not do any of this. No, that's not what we're saying. It does have value because especially, it's a person who has iman, who's doing this tasbih because they want to get closer to Allah. It's a form of zikr. But if we look at the reality of the actions, right? Like the reality of the actions is based on where it's coming from. So if you look at, how we work, the most apparent thing is the tongue in a way, right? When you're talking. But so is it coming just from the tongue or is it a little deeper? If you go a little deeper, maybe it gets to the heart. If you go a little deeper, it gets to the mind. Well, I don't know. It's a bad example probably, but regardless. So the deeper it's coming in from the zikr that one is doing, the more it will be worth. That does not mean that if it's coming just from the tongue that it won't be worth anything. But if I really want to reap the benefits, then it will come from further in. And even further in, I can't just create the meaning of the zikr deeper in. It's directly related to how deep my understanding of Allah is. The deeper my understanding of Allah, the deeper the zikr will be. And the deeper the zikr is, and if it's coupled with attention towards that zikr, then the more valuable it would be. But so that said, also just the zikr from for example, I'm just starting off, I don't have a deep understanding, I don't know what this means, I don't know what that means, but I would like to. Yes, in those terms, if a person just has, limited understanding, or all of us have limited understanding, but to the extent of our understanding, if we um, do the zikr, because for example, I don't know what subhanallah means, I know what alhamdulillah means, I don't know what Allahu Akbar means, but I know that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave this as a gift, this tasbih, this zikr as a gift to his daughter salamullah alayha. And then on top of that, the imams also said that this is the best form of zikr. So I don't understand any of that, but I still do it. That doing, that even though the zikr is just on the level of the tongue and I'm doing the zikr, but because that is all I understand and I'm submitting to that, then that verbal, just simple verbal zikr will inshallah lead to tawfiq to be able to understand at a deeper level and increase my ma'rifat, increase my understanding, so that my zikr in the future can inshallah be deeper and more valuable. So yes, it's not useless at all. It is useful, but it can be better. Hope that answers your question.
yeah, thank you so much.
Respected Sayyid, there is a request in the chat box as well. Do we have time?
I don't see anything.
I
Maybe was
will
it sent
it
privately
is
to you?
saying, Assalamu alaikum. There is a request from my mother. She's listening as well. Can you kindly give us the actual meaning behind the 35th ayah of Surah Noor?
The which ayah?
35th.
Oh, the Ayatul Noor. Inshallah, I think it deserves an entire session. So inshallah, if we have tawfiq, inshallah, we'll try to cover it because it's a long verse, right? And it's the main ayat of Surah Noor where the surah gets a name from. So inshallah, I think it would be good if one day we can do that, but I think it'll require an entire session. So maybe if it's okay, then inshallah we'll leave this for a full session, inshallah. Anything else? No? Okay, we can end, inshallah. Thank you very much. Please keep each other in your du'as and keep me in your du'as as well. May Allah, inshallah, give us the tawfiq to truly be able to build a real relationship with the Quran. And, whether it starts with recitation or starts with or ends somewhere else, but inshallah, give us the tawfiq. May Allah give us the tawfiq to be able to build that relationship with the Quran. Inshallah. Okay.
Inshallah. Thank you very much,
Thank
Sayyid. Thank you everyone for joining. Khuda Hafiz. See you in the next session.